All right, man. We are live. We are back. GYGB War Report Show. I'm your co-host Roberto Flack. My man Coltrane. What is goody?
What's good, my G? Boxing. It's raining boxing.
Yeah, man. And before we got on, man, this is the last major, boxing weekend of what is without question the nuttiest year I think any of us, just on a personal level, have experienced. But in the realm of boxing, man, it's like the culmination. And funny enough, you would think because of COVID and everything, we would have had an uneventful year. I can't imagine like what our wrap-up show is really gonna look like, man, because a lot happened this year, man. Ironically, you know what I'm saying? Like it's
right.
We were talking about. I mean, we'll get to a wrap-up show, next couple of weeks, but we got a pretty major fight this week. I mean, if you want to talk about world championship fights, Train went out there. You'll be back. And we got a major fight this weekend on DAZN. There's two fights on DAZN, but mainly. This Saturday, Canelo Alvarez versus Callum Smith for the WBA Super. Here's Train again.
Yeah, my stream went off.
All right, cool. No, I was saying, this weekend kind of culminates 2020, but we have, I mean, I'm sure there's other matches, in the next couple of weeks, but clearly this is the last big notable fight. As it concerns, obviously, one of boxing's biggest stars, if not the current cash cow, if you will, in that of Canelo Alvarez, as he is facing Callum Smith for what at first was the WBA Super, well, in parentheses, Super Middleweight Championship, ring Lineal. And now, as to no surprise, the vacant WBC Super Middleweight Championship, and that will all be on the line this Saturday.
At the Nakatomi building.
I'm sorry?
I said at the Nakatomi building.
Right. Word. So yeah,
diehard humor out there. We'll explain in a little bit.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So we're gonna see that this weekend, live on DAZN. Again, the irony of it all. One of the biggest news stories clearly this year in boxing, and again, it's such a nutty year on a personal level with everybody. But we saw Canelo Alvarez, and me and Train called this like some time ago. His departure from Golden Boy, but ironically, this fight will be on DAZN. So, and also Friday night, there's another fight that is kind of like going over people's heads, and some people don't even know what's happening. The return of Gennady Golovkin, as he.
That's sad, man. Wow. Nobody. Yeah, I'm gonna throw a post up, tomorrow, but it's crazy that. He went to DAZN to chase Canelo, and clearly other plans.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's facing Camille Sumatra, which is an IBF mandatory. And, that's going to be funny enough, man. That's going to be around my neck of the woods, They've been hosting these fights down here. Devin Haney fought Gamboa down here. It's going to be at the Seminole Hard Rock. Obviously, no fans here. And this is, an IBF mandatory fight. I don't know where Triple G goes from here, but I mean, I think really all the focus is on Canelo Alvarez. And as we're making this video today, they made an announcement that DAZN has partnered up with the cable companies to provide this fight be on pay-per-view. Now, the caveat, I don't know if you caught this, Train. The caveat of the fight now being available on conventional pay-per-view for $70 is that if you purchase the pay-per-view, you will have DAZN for 4 months. So, as Canelo walks out the door, but that's gonna be happening this Saturday, and we're gonna get to that in a second. But I wanted to start up the show, man. They made the official announcement today. We knew who the Hall of Fame inductee or the nominees were, I should say. And listen, man, there were some great names in there, and I don't think any of us were really arguing. I mean, obviously, there's two that stood out, but there's other fighters there that I think will make it there eventually, if not sooner than later. But it's officially announced today, the 3 inductees that will be inducted to the 2021 Hall of Fame will be Floyd Money Mayweather, as it comes to no surprise, Wladimir Klitschko, which again really comes to no surprise, and shout to R.O. Diggity, Andre SOG Ward gets the nod, and he will become a Hall of Famer. And all these guys are well deserved of the nod. So I mean, on behalf of GYGB, man, we salute all of y'all. Well deserved.
Right. It's crazy, Roberto, and obviously Floyd goes without saying. And 1 second.
Yeah, it is it is funny though, these nominees. There is always banter back and forth as far as like who.
My bad. Multitasking, live TV. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're straight. No, I was saying, there's always banter back and forth as far as who's deserved of a spot and who should get first ballot. But I mean, I think it's really hard to argue these inductees. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you can make several examples of why not only them being inducted, but first ballot.
Yeah, no, and sorry about that, people. Having some work done at my career. That was the contract.
Oh, good, man.
I didn't want to turn the lights off, then the internet go out. We got all types of problems. So anyway, no, listen, man. What I wanted to say was, like you said, I mean, most of these guys, we will do a show where we kind of reflect on their careers, but I just wanted to just say something about Andre Ward specifically because, Andre Ward wasn't big like Klitschko. Andre Ward, wasn't blessed with athleticism like Floyd Mayweather. Andre Ward was a guy that, and this is no not or no disrespect to guys that were blessed with the genetic attributes, but athletic genetic attributes. But a guy like Ward, and Andre Ward said this himself out of the horse's mouth. He said, when guys always look, since I've been 12 years old on film, I look slow, I look methodical. And I look like an easy go for a lot of people until they get in and ring with me. Now, this was a 12-year-old Andre Ward, and this was at the time he might have been like in his late 20s. I think this was like once the conclusion of the Super 6 tournament. Yeah. And for a guy like him to be not a real outspoken guy, didn't have a whole lot of pay-per-view bouts, but was the ultimate. Always was the ultimate professional, and to have a chance to see him, go through an entire division and pretty much wipe it up. Now, I'm not going to say with ease, but, not really without a sweat. He was able to go through the division when that division was loaded, super middleweight division, that is, and went right through it with no problem, moves up to light heavyweight, fights Kovalov, have that one issue with him, and the first fight where a lot of people thought it could go either way, and he fought him again and walked him down. And shout out to ROD again, who called the knockout and stopped him. I mean, stellar career and well deserving. Obvious to all three guys, but I just wanted to take the time because Ward, don't sometimes not getting forgotten about, but I just want people to understand and appreciate the IQ, the boxing intelligence. I mean, this guy was just like a savant. You hear him talk, like he knows he can articulate what he was doing in the ring. So salute to SOG, man.
Yeah, word, absolutely, yeah. Man. I mean, we got a lot to get into, man. I mean, there was fights this past weekend.
Yes, there were.
There's yeah, man, on all
everywhere
the networks, really. I mean, let's jump right into
let's get into it.
Over to shout to our UK audience. We saw the return of AJ Anthony Joshua as he defended his unified heavyweight championship against Kubrat Pulev and won in what, a 9th round stoppage knockout.
Yep.
And listen,
who he dropped like 10 times, mind you.
Yeah, man. But listen, man, I guess the stage is set. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we're seeing these reports, you're hearing, like, you know, again, you gotta take everything with a grain of salt until you see the ink dry on the contract. But you have to think that the trek, at the very least, if not next, at some point in 2021, we're going to see Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury. So, I mean, we talked about this, but I'll give you the floor, man. Like, give me your take as far as what you saw in that Joshua fight.
You know, it's crazy, and I made a joke with the video I posted on Sunday. You know, after watching the fight, I said, you know, my counterpart, our counterpart RLD is going to kill me for this, but I was a bit impressed. You know, you watched the fight live like I did. I know Wladimir caught it on the replay, but you know, sometimes when you watch something live versus seeing it on the replay, it could be different now because your emotions is taken out of it. But like watching it live, you know, I was seeing little subtle things. Like I always try to look for subtle things that fighters do, not so much who they doing it against. You know, because prior to this, I saw Anthony Joshua like, you know, throwing a punch, then dropping his right hand, or you know, loading up and squaring up when he let his hands go. And these are all things that are recipes are a recipe for disaster when you fight the upper echelon guys, right? So I'm watching him do these little subtle things. I'm watching him. He actually brought a cat paw jab out like Lennox. You know, he threw a counter pull right hand, which is always a beautiful thing to see in the ring. You know, some would say that it took him too long to get rid of a 39-year-old guy that was kind of there to be had. And, you know, I thought the fight should have been stopped. I don't know why that ref continued to let the fight go on. I mean, Pulev was just there being hit. He didn't even let his hands go, you know. And a lot of that was attributed to AJ.
Right.
But, I mean, he fought a tune-up. You know, like we talked about Canelo, that's what he's going to do on Friday. You know, so sometimes when you fight these tune-up guys, their job is to survive, to say that they didn't get knocked out. So sometimes it's a little bit more difficult to knock guys out like that. So I think sometimes fans jump the gun with that prematurely. But at the end of the day, like you said, and it's a shame because this was supposed to be Deontay Wilder's fight, I thought, you know, 2 years ago, or 3 maybe. But, you know, things have happened and materialized. There's still an arbitration in place, you know, because there was a rematch clause for him to fight Tyson Fury. We got to see how that plays out. But I think that the next fight is going to be him and Tyson Fury. Now, can he beat Tyson Fury? I don't think so. You know, I just was saying that I just think it's a little bit more competitive than it probably was. Like, I just think Anthony Joshua is a guy that's learning on the job, Roberto.
Yeah, I think what I'll say is he looked less apprehensive in this fight than he did in the rematch with Ruiz.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Right. Yeah, and I think part of that might have been just, I mean, listen, man, you had a very you know, that loss to Ruiz did a number on him. You know what I'm saying? I mean, when you think of the stage that he was on, I mean, they were making the big US splash and had a lot of pressure on him. And that's and I'm not saying that to take away from Ruiz's, you know, claim to fame. I mean, he did beat Joshua, but I think going into that rematch, there were some people, even me, thinking like he had to get that get back, like what we had seen with Lennox Lewis when he lost to Team Rockman and he went in and just blasted him out.
Right.
But I think in this fight, and again, I get, you know, Pulev's 40 and things and such, but like you made some points that he was doing stuff that we're not necessarily used to seeing him do, but again, it looked better than he did in this previous fight, which is what you want to see. I think if there was a trend where you just saw a very apprehensive fighter that didn't want to, not necessarily engage, but it was just being a little too careful. You start to think like, where's the mental at? And I think it was a good win for him, a confidence building win, which again leads to the stage that a lot of us think is, what I'm not 100% about just yet is if it's the next fight, only because we're still in the midst of COVID.
Yeah.
Over there too. And that fight to me just spells Wembley Stadium, and it'll sell out within minutes.
Yeah, minutes.
That fight is the biggest money fight in boxing, beyond anything that the United States can produce right now. Even more Crawford versus Spence. I mean, that fight in the UK is
it's not even close. Yeah. This is like a Tyson, a Tyson Holyfield type thing for them over there.
Right? Yeah.
Anthony Joshua, he's a folklore hero over there, and so is Tyson Fury. But I think Anthony Joshua is a little bit more famous than Tyson Fury. I think. Yeah. Well, now it may be a little.
I think that's the crazy thing, man. Is like you got two guys. I mean, think about this.
They're really popular.
Like you don't even. All right, like we want Crawford Spence. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just like
fight
that's
a fight fans thing, right?
But for them,
they
have two sets of fans that are in the same. I don't know about the same hood, but like they're in the same country,
right?
And they're both in their primes. And they're fighting for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. It gets no bigger than that. Like, really, like, it gets no bigger than that. So it's the only thing for us, at least, and I made a point to somebody, it's like, I don't know if that fight, at least in the U.S., is going to be like a big home run hit because, again, like, you got to appease the British fans.
No, yeah.
That'd be a 5 or 6 o'clock fight in the United
States.
No,
it won't. No, it won't be. I mean, it'll be big, but it wouldn't have been as big if it was Wilder versus one of them.
Oh, yeah.
You feel me? Like,
yeah.
Listen, I hate and I know it's unfair, and we're not trying to take territorial sides or anything. We just stating out the metrics,
right?
The metrics of it all. The fact of the matter is that the people in the U.S., unless there's an American fighter.
Right.
On the A or B side, the interest is not going to be there 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon on a Saturday. Nah. I was cleaning my house, watching the fight. No, not like that. But
no, I feel you.
I feel you. It was on as like background music, and that's only because of the time of day it came on. It was like first of all, shouts out to whoever put that card on. That was the longest. Remember, you was like, "Is the fight on yet?"
Yo, at 4:30, right? I'm thinking like, it's about to pop on. That joint didn't come out till like 6:30 our time.
It started, bro. This car started at 1 o'clock, like our time.
Yeah, man.
Crazy.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, so anyway, so I think that it's crazy because we could all be blinded, with our own, preconceived notions with things, like, when Anthony Joshua first came out. Let's be honest. Let's call a spade a spade. It was kind of like he was like a character from a movie. It was like, all right, who's this guy? It's this big guy with these.
Right.
He just didn't look like a fighter. He looked like one of Mike Tyson's opponents that got knocked out, back in the 80s. I'm serious. He looked like Frank Bruno. No disrespect to him, but that's what he looked like. All right, great. Another tree trunk with some muscles and cool. Yeah. Nobody really took him serious. And then, he was really popular on social media. It was almost like, just like a flash in the pan type of thing. And then, he started winning. The Klitschko fight is how his fame got raised. Remember, he almost gets knocked out of this fight. Right. Klitschko, let's not forget, how old was Klitschko in that fight?
40, almost 39, almost 40.
Almost 40. This fight was about 5 years ago.
About around that, right? Close, give or take. Yeah, I
give or take.
Fought him first. Then it was a little bit after that, so I want to say it was probably 2017. I'd have to look it up.
But we
say 3-4 years ago. Yeah.
But we know Klitschko was at least 39, 40 years old. You know,
for sure.
So anyway, that fight is how his fame grew, and then again we're like, man, this dude almost got beat by a 40-year-old Klitschko. He goes on a little run, and then what happens? The Ruiz situation happened. Oh, I knew it. Flash in the pan. Bum. On to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
He runs it back. He run it back with Ruiz.
Gets it back, yeah.
I mean, people could say, listen, Ruiz hit the lottery. He won. He was riding around in Ferraris and I ain't knocking that. I'm just saying that clearly boxing wasn't on his mind no more. He went from rags to riches, and
that happened.
He didn't probably too much, but he shows up, and I mean, listen, Joshua did what he was supposed to do, and you could speculate about Ruiz and that. Anyway, so fast forward to what we're saying is that I just don't know if it's the home run hit. People will watch it, but it ain't gonna do numbers like Crawford and Spence gonna do numbers here in the stateside.
Right, and right, and that's the thing, right? Because I saw somebody post on Twitter about like which is the bigger fight. Now it's obviously the bigger money fight.
I mean, yeah, come on,
is the AJ Fury, but at least domestically, Crawford Spence, I think, because it's again two Americans in their prime, the welterweight division, not as decorated as the heavyweight division, but I've always said welterweight, middleweight, and heavyweight have been like that trifecta. When you look historically, as far as like the big fights we've seen in the last like 30, 40 years. But Crawford Spence here is, well, number one, I mean, some people would, I mean, again, it's very subjective as it concerns like the matchup itself as far as how evenly matched they are. I mean, I would say that even though all of us here have who we favor in that fight, it is a genuine 50-50 fight. I mean, there's so many things, with Fury and Joshua. I mean, it's tough, man. Again, and I think because it's heavyweight boxing and anything can happen in heavyweight boxing. You got a 200. Yeah. These guys are 240 plus.
Massive. Right. Somebody's falling down.
Somebody, yeah. I don't think that fight goes to the cards.
And this isn't like Bo and Holyfield where there's gonna be a bunch of clinching going on, And this is these guys get hit. Even though Fury's a little bit more craftier than Joshua, but the guy, he does have one punch knockout power, or knockdown power. Yeah. So,
but there's and the thing with that fight too is they're both vulnerable guys. I mean, even as recent,
both vulnerable.
Fury got dropped twice against Wilder. Shout out to Steve. He dropped Fury. So it's not as if Fury it can't get hurt. We've seen it. You know what I'm saying? It's just it's the same thing with Joshua too. We've seen him dropped. We've seen him hurt prior, hurt in the Klitschko fight, dropped, and then he lost to Ruiz. I think that in a way, like where Crawford and Spence is different. That fight is like the vulnerability, I think, is the selling point as well. It's like you people would favor Fury, and there's just people going to favor Joshua, but it's like, man, that really could kind of go either way too, man. I mean, even whoever you favor, because it's heavyweight boxing.
Yeah.
So we'll see, man. I mean, I would hope that would be the next fight, but I'm just thinking in my head, they want to pack in a crowd for that.
I think right now it's so. Now, remember, I was telling you this before. Even with the Spencer Crawford, it's so weird right now because you want to maximize everything you can, and you got to be careful because without fans in the arena and sponsorships and concessions, like you want it all, like on a fight like that. And I just think that until people are able to go back, even if they cap it out at a number. You just want some numbers in there versus now they did have more than. It's interesting because the fight on Saturday, I mean, it wasn't a big crowd, but it was
They had 1,000 people in there.
They had 1,000 because it was noisy in there. And it wasn't like fake noise. It was real.
Yo. But when they were doing Sweet Caroline, it sounded like there were like 20,000 people in there.
So for those who don't know, so that's a big UK thing. They sing Sweet Caroline before every fight, so. And it sounded like it was a Wembley Stadium full of people in that joint.
Right. Yo, anyway. I got an idea. Just call up Jerry, have the joint at AT&T, and just have it at 5 o'clock in the afternoon here.
I mean, listen, bro. Like, if the money, it all comes down to dollars and cents. If America can present whatever, I just can't see a fight of that. Why would they deprive their people? You understand what I'm saying? Like, what benefit and gain did you get out of this?
Right. It's like putting Crawford Spence over there. Like, why? It wouldn't make any sense.
Like Lennox Lewis for Klitschko here, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah. But mind you, that was a last-minute fight too, though. That was like the 11th hour.
All right, I forgot how the build-up for that.
I forgot who he fought. I forgot who he was supposed to fight. The dude bowed out, and then Vitaly filled in like right away, and Lennox was like, "All right, let's go."
And you got to remember, Lennox was over here making movies.
Right, he already made the U.S. splash, and this was after Mike and Holyfield.
This was home really for him. He had homes in L.A. and
like if it had been Wilder, that fight would have been here.
Yeah,
either way, it would have been here. But it just, again, these two guys are from the UK. It's a no-brainer.
Heavily populated. I mean, popular in those places.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, we'll see if they have fill-in fights before, or if they just go right to it and maybe you just wait for the summertime, man. I mean, we don't know. Again, like everything is all subjected to like how and when things start to clear up. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of to be determined. But I think I'm confident in saying it happens though. I don't think, because they both want it. Like they see the money, and 9 times out of 10, when the money is there, these fights end up happening. No doubt. So we'll see. But on to the Showtime card.
Right,
you got this. You got. I was flipping back and forth.
Yeah,
because they had the top rank card on, but they had Chris Colbert, who they term as mini B-Hop, right?
Yeah, mini B-Hop.
Out of the BK.
Well, he goes by prime time now. He got.
Okay, all right. So no disrespect.
No more B-Hop.
no more mini B-Hop.
Yeah, they called him that. I think Bernard. I forget. He had a picture of Bernard and he fight. I forget how it all came about. So, but he's prime time now.
Word. So shout to all my BK fam out over there. He faced off against Jaime Arboleda.
Yeah, Panamanian kid. Yep.
Yeah. So I'll give you the floor, man, because you were watching that fight as it was going on. But like, tell me what you saw.
All right. So first of all, let me just say this real quick, because you said shout out to Brooklyn. This kid is a Brooklyn kid through in and throughout. We're fans of hip hop and rap music. So when you hear people with that heavy Brooklyn, New York accent, you just start thinking about
shout to my people. Yeah, man. I know.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just like this kid, like it's funny. His cadence and his mannerisms reminds me of Zab a lot. He's from Flatbush.
Very familiar.
Right. So he's from Flatbush. Very interesting story. He didn't grow up in a gym like Andre Ward did. He didn't get it to start fighting until he was 13. Now, some people might be like, well, that's still a long time ago. Not when you're only 23.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
He's only been boxing for 10 years, and he became pro at 18, so he don't have the Olympian story, the trials. So this kid was fed right to the fire. Now, normally, me, Roberto, I'm not a big component of fighters just jumping in, turning pro, but I understand the financial burden on some of these kids, and it's no other. It's either that or the latter. So he turned pro and he had to learn on the job. And I seen him fight a few times, and I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't really thoroughly impressed. And let me explain why. You can find a lot of guys in any inner city gym that can pot shot and drop their hands and mimic Roy or, you know, do some Floyd imitations against lesser known guys.
Yeah.
And just from just being naturally athletic and you know, having some skill, you can do that against a lesser talented fighter. So I've seen him a couple times. I had a couple people like, yo, man, this new kid, Lil BHOP, he nice. I'm not moved by this kid. And I didn't know a lot about this Panamanian kid he fought on Saturday, but I knew from the probably about the first 4 rounds, I could see that he was going to be in for a fight because the kid kind of knew how to cut the ring off, and he didn't mind taking a punch to give a punch. And I said, this is one of these fights that he's going to have to bite down and fight in the pocket if he really wants to make a statement. Now, he could easily do what I just said and make the fight easy. So it's interesting because he's very, very fast. Like he throws combinations. He throws these really crisp, fast combinations. Got a really nice jab, throw a mean uppercut. You know, he don't have a lot of knockouts. Like I think he only got 5 knockouts.
Yeah.
But he said it, like, if I can knock people out if I want, but I choose the box. So in this particular fight, he knew it was a big stage. He knew he was being parallel to Shakur Stevenson, who we'll get into in a second. Mm-hmm. So he knew he had to make a statement. So he fought in the pocket. And I always talk about how fighters a lot of them don't know how to fight in close space. You know, they crowd their punches, you know, crowd their own work. But he gave himself space, you know, to get off uppercuts. He went to the guy's body. He was throwing lead right hands in a very short amount of space. Because that's what really hurt the Panamanian kid. He threw a vicious like lead right hand and then buckled him. So that set everything up. And you know, he stopped him, and you know, he said to himself, said after the fight, said himself like, listen, I wanted to prove and show people that I can fight inside. And you know, he rolled with a lot of stuff, but he took a punch because so many times, you know, fighters that we watch coming up, we will watch them be in these physical fights and they would mentally break down. So for this kid to have this, and because I don't want people to think I'm overrating the situation here, but for him to have this type of moment this early on, I call these character wins because he's built character, confidence, and experience for later. Mm-hmm. And I know everybody wants to see Shakur Stevenson versus the Devin Haney's, the Gervonta Davis, and all these other people. I'm telling y'all right now, December 15, 2020, the fight to be made is with Chris Colbert and Shakur Stevenson. That's the fight right there, those two.
Word. And we'll segue to that in a sec. I mean, we'll segue to that card, the top rank.
But I know you watched a little. So what's your take? Skill-wise?
You said everything, man. I mean, I had seen Chris Colbert fight, but I mean, you brought up a good point as far as there's fighters, and I feel some of these fighters today don't fight these level of guys. Like you mentioned, the guys that cut the ring off, and you got to go in your bag of tricks. He showed that, man. Like he showed a lot of, for like you mentioned earlier, for him only really being in the ring 10 years total, right? From when he put a pair of gloves on to now.
5 years pro, but yeah.
He was doing stuff, and you know, we'll get to Shakur in a sec too, but he was doing stuff like some veteran stuff in there, man. And I was really, really impressed with him. Yeah. And it's just you know, we like you had mentioned it. I mean, the 130 and 135 division are looking kind of nutty, man. Like there's nowhere to hide. That's a good point, man.
Remember we brought up Lomachenko. We was like, well, I mean,
remember we were talking about him going to 130. Now it's like, you want to do that? I don't know, man. Yeah. I mean, well, to segue into, you know, the top ranks card, you know, they had a triple header same night. We saw the return.
A lot going on there.
Oh yeah, we saw the return of the now, you know, becoming very popular Puerto Rican Edgar Berlanga with his 16th straight first round knockout over, it was a Ulysses Solis, and I mean, or Sierra, I'm sorry. I mean, listen, man, I think we're at a point where Edgar Berlanga really need in 2021 to step up his competition. I mean, I think at this point he's ready. You know, we keep hearing that he wants to go the rounds and he wants to show what else he has. And even to his credit, he said, he's like, listen, man, I need to up my competition because that's what I'm going to get my rounds in. So at the very least, he's cognizant of that. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of us hardcore fight fans, man, that have watched boxing for, I mean, like for myself, man, close to 30 years, okay, or about over 30 years, I should say. We've seen this before. You know, we've seen we've seen this movie before, and there's times where these fighters step up in competition and they don't look like the same guys that they were knocking all these dudes out. You know what I'm saying? And when you look at the super middleweight division, and we're going to talk about the couple of the lead guys that are going to be fighting this weekend, to fight those upper echelon guys and to be prepared for them, you really need to go rounds. You need to go those 12 rounds. And you look through the division and you start to ask yourself, like, is he ready for the top 10? At this point, I feel they really need to start trekking towards that. He's 16-0, 16 first round knockouts. I wouldn't throw him in there with a top 5 yet, but I mean, if we're talking about like a number 10, even number 11 ranked guy, I think Edgar Berlanga is at a point where they need to put him in there. They need to put him in there and really just see what they have with him, man. We were seeing like Lil Wayne posting up stuff. We're seeing, Fat Joe. I mean, he's got TS.
He's a rock star.
Yeah, I mean, and listen, on one end of it, that's not a bad thing,
Right.
But like with everything, the substance does come into play, and I think, and like I said, before you're off, but I think he is cognizant of that. I mean, I think he understands that he needs to step up the competition, and he even said, like, he's like, I want to go rounds, and I know I'm gonna go rounds when I go and face these upper echelon guys.
Right.
I hope we start to see that in 2021. The only
go ahead, Roberto.
The only thing I'm very apprehensive of thinking that he's going to, and again, we could be subjective as far as how you rate a top 10 guy or whatever, but again, we come back to the to the divisions and the factions of the networks and the promoters and things as such, and I don't know exactly, and maybe some of you can remind me, like, who Bob Arum and Top Rank are going to be able to put in front of him that they have access to, that isn't with Al Heyman or with Eddie Hearn or what have you. So at this point, man, I mean, they're doing what most people that have 16 knockouts in the first round would do. I mean, they're gonna promote this guy, and the hip hop world's behind him, and we've seen him in the studio with Snoop.
Snoop embraced him. He helped that out. Yeah.
He's becoming a name, but I think in 2021 we really need to see his competition step up, because then if he starts beating these top 10 guys, let's just say a top 9 or 10, if he starts laying them dudes out, then it's like, okay, all right, then it's just a pecking order of like, all right, how about this guy and how about this guy? So we'll see, man. And
I mean, listen, all right, because this is what I meant to ask you. I meant to Ben ask you this. What's his amateur story? Like, is there one?
He didn't have that crazy of an amateur career.
Because he's pretty young, right? What is he like?
Yeah. I'm not 100% as far as how old he is. He's 23.
23. Yeah.
I don't think he has a super decorated amateur career. I'm trying to look it up right now as far as like how many fights he had.
No, it's cool. I was just trying. I was asking because that always rears his ugly head.
I have to cut you off. 35 fights.
Yeah. Okay. I figured. So yeah. So the lack of amateur experience, every now and again rears his ugly head. Listen, hey, respect to the kid. He carved a niche out for himself. And we always talk about personalities in boxing. You know, he's filling a void.
Right.
But you gotta remember something, right? We went from a plethora of welterweights that could light up a room without even saying nothing. That's the De La Hoyas, the Cottos, Mosley, obviously Floyd, Margarita. They didn't have to say nothing, but these were polarizing individuals, right? Mm-hmm. So then you go from, and this is no disrespect, I don't want this to come off the wrong way. Crawford, Thurman, Spence, Porter, Danny Garcia. That's the group, right? That would you consider that like the next crop of welterweights? I mean, that came after that group.
I mean, they are the guys, but to your point,
you understand what I'm saying, though, Roberto, right?
When Cotto fought, like you were there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you tell me. You know what I'm saying?
I was at a fight party every time Cotto fought.
Yeah.
And it's not like Colbert was here the whole time. We just got here this year.
Right.
I don't remember everybody saying, hey, let's all get together to watch this Keith Thurman fight or Sean Porter or Danny Garcia. Like, and you know, Danny, he's from, but it's
and
listen, there's no shade to them guys. I'm just saying that these aren't polarizing individuals. So what you have now is you have a crop of young fighters coming up that's more tapped into the social media realm. Right. Like I always bring up Gervonta Davis. I said, you know, people are more fixated on him and his lifestyle on Instagram. No, I'm sorry. That's Devin Haney. I'm Gervonta too to a certain point, but
yeah.
Gervonta is more polarizing because he knocks people out.
Right.
He's not really a social media guy. Where Devin Haney lives it now. We're a little older, you know, so we're not connected. But my kids watch YouTube influencers or social media. They're obsessed with people that sit on a camera and literally they can eat Sour Patches all day and get 1 million views. You know, Robert, like
I know, man.
You know, do your son like is he watching YouTube
man,
videos?
Of course,
It's the dumbest thing, but these people are millionaires now. You see celebrities want to fight them. Anyway,
go ahead.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But anyway, so I want to go back to the whole thing about polarizing things. You look at Devin Haney. Listen, I can't pick 5 guys out of a crime lineup other than till recently who Devin Haney is for. He doesn't have like this crazy amateur Olympian, but he was marketed and promoted a certain way. So people actually start buying. And I'm not saying that he's not going to be whatever, but nothing has been proven. Yeah. People haven't saw a whole lot. But what you have been sold on is an idea through social media, and that's how you've been promoting stuff, smartly so. Now, this kid Berlanga, same thing. Like, he's a social media icon right now. Like, when I go on my feed, he's all over the place.
Yeah, man. Yeah, for sure.
And he hasn't afforded Devin Haney is a better resume. Like, he hasn't afforded nobody yet. But he went to the uncle of the culture, Uncle Snoop. When he did that, and when I remember seeing him in the studio with Snoop, and it went viral, of course. So now it's like, well, we really gotta be careful now because we don't want to mess this up. And I know people gonna kill me on this, but Joe Messi. And a lot of people don't remember Joe Messi. We do.
Yeah, I know.
Who's a politician by now? I had to go look this up.
I know, right? He's a Democratic politician. I saw that.
He's a politician now. So Joe Messi was this phenom, right? Before social media, he would have been he would have fit right in today. He was knocking everybody out, and then what happened?
Yep.
Turned the volume up, right?
And that's the thing. I think that's where we have to
come on, man.
We have to see if the same is gonna happen with Berlanga. And again, we're not gonna know until he steps the competition up.
Listen, I know Tyson was knocking everybody out when he first came on the scene, but these were still pedigree guys he was knocking out.
Right, exactly.
The Bone Crusher Smiths of the world. These guys were guys at one time, you know.
Larry Holmes, yeah, of course, yeah, man.
You know, like they wasn't just, hey, you want to fight tonight? You know, listen, I grew up in the Blue Horizon. This is the funniest story ever, right? this guy had a like Popeyes won a Kentucky Fried Chicken, because when you went to the Blue Horizon, they didn't have like a real dressing room. So you would walk going out, you would see guys. This guy was changing out of his fast food restaurant uniform to go fight. He said he literally got the call that morning. They were just finding opponents. Those are the type of opponents Berlanga.
It seems so, right? I mean, I
don't want it to come off like the old guy that called the cops because the kids are playing basketball at 1 a.m. You know, we don't want to be we've been around, we watched boxing a long time, and we know that knocking guys out in the first round, while it's cool, it's fun for the casual eyes, but we're boxing people, and we know that that's not a long-term success. Like, eventually he's going to have to get some rounds in against somebody. Somebody that used to be somebody that's a nobody now, but still was somebody.
Right. No, absolutely. And that at the very least, that's the hope for next year. That's like he starts fighting these guys, man. I'd like to see him go 4 or 5 rounds at the very least, man. I'm
pulling for him because I want some fun and excitement. I think he'll be cool for the sport.
I agree. Well, another Puerto Rican fighter fought after that.
Yes, he did.
That of Felix Verdejo as he went up against pardon me for I mispronounced his name, Mayoyoshi Nakatani. Now, we had seen him against Teofimo Lopez. This was the guy that fought Teofimo before Teofimo fought Lomachenko.
Right.
And I have to say, man, tit for tat, this might have been a candidate. I mean, granted, we've had kind of a shaky year in boxing, man, but the way this fight played out, it might be a fight of the year candidate, but the way it ended was just, you start to want to, for those who, not spoiler alerts out there, Verdejo.
There's no such thing as spoilers.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, we're what era are we talking about? But Felix Verdejo, yet again, for the second time, not in a row, but for the second time, is knocked out, or is a TKO, but he was winning this fight as he drops Nakatani in the first round with a nice right hand. And I was like, oh, here we go. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
And then the fight progresses. He dropped him again. I forgot what round it was, but it was like, I think he landed another right hand and Nakatani's knee hit the ground.
Yeah.
But I started to notice little by little, I want to say maybe the third round, I started noticing little by little, Nakatani just started chipping away. And I'm sitting here like, yo, this dude is tough. And I think it was the 9th round. He gets hit. It's funny, yo. He gets hit with a punch similar to what Bud landed on Kell Brook. It was like a counter jab, like a counter hook jab. And you just see Verdejo just whop to the ropes. And I'm sitting there watching and like, yo, he really got hurt with that?
Do you think? Go ahead, Roberto.
No, I'm saying then after that he gets hit like almost immediately after with the looping right, and then you just see him just fall, and I'm like, oh, it's over, man.
Do you think like some of those shots? The only reason I'm thinking about that because you brought up Kell Brook. Do you think that this is like a punch resistance issue with Verdejo?
I'm believing it probably is, man. And the thing is, again, we saw Spence, he got in his accident and he came back and all the questions were answered.
Yeah.
When Verdejo got in his motorcycle accident, he had his own his accident too, and he got scarred up and the whole nine. But following that accident, he comes back and he gets, I forgot who beat him, but he got beat up. Like he got beat up. He switches trainers. And he has like 3 comeback fights, and then he lands against and this is why when they announced this card and they said Nakatani was going to be his opponent, I thought back to the Teofimo Lopez fight. I'm like, yo, this is going to tell all we need to know about where Verdejo is. And he answered the question, man. Now listen, before the knockout, Verdejo was winning the fight on the card.
He was
well ahead. Yeah, well ahead. And then he got 2 knockdowns, and he just for whatever reason, he couldn't get up. And listen, the body language, and I think you saw it. He knew he was done. He didn't complain. He didn't say. He knew he was done.
That's a telltale sign when they don't complain.
Right. So I don't know, yo. Like, I mean, they were lining him up. I'm telling you this. If Teofimo wasn't gonna fight this dude that they're talking about him fighting in Australia, I think this was the next fight. I think they were trying to do Verdejo and Teofimo Lopez, and that would have been interesting, like, well, at least before this fight, but I don't know where Verdejo goes from here, man. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he's a lightweight, but he was always a big lightweight. And at 140,
right? No,
I don't know. I don't know if that's going to serve him well, man. So
we saw that. I remember when Chico Corrales moved up to junior welterweight.
Yep.
And I think he might have even moved all the way
to welterweight. He fought Claudia, remember?
Yeah, and he just because he was always a big. It always looked so weird to me him fighting that lightweight because he was so tall.
Right, and remember he was favored against Floyd. That's the last fight that Floyd was the underdog in when he fought Diego Corrales.
Well, they thought he was. A lot of people thought he was going to kill Floyd when they fought.
But to your point, because he was like, how is this guy a super featherweight?
I was worried about Floyd. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm like, this
because
he could win.
This
dude. He used to wear the fatigue shorts. He was because he was on a bunch of undercards, just knocking everybody out,
laying dudes out. Right. So I don't know. Like the jury's really out with Verdejo, man. I mean, I really don't know where he goes from here. I mean, but the thing is, it's like he was again. It's like it's not like he lost the fight in a way where he was losing all the rounds and just got knocked out. I mean, he was winning the fight, but to your point, you have to really consider now the punch resistance. When because listen, it doesn't. If you think it just ends with Nakatani, you're mistaken.
People don't realize, and we probably sound like broken records when we bring that that up, but. It's a big thing in this sport because once you lost it's really hard to continue. It's hard to continue on because like every time you step up, when you start fighting, you even like Kell Brook, he came back with a fight, he looked okay, but I'm like, that's against that guy. But when you start fighting the Bud Crawfords of the world, everybody's got Bud, obviously, but you just gotta wonder where guys. They become so brittle, their body just reject anything that you throw at them. And I looked, and that's kind of what I saw on Saturday night with Verdejo. I'm like, this is the second time this dude been laid out like this, and I hate retiring guys, because he's a young guy. But I'm like, if you're gonna come back just to get if you're just a fighter, and I don't know how much he made for, but health is wealth at the end of the day, and I'm like. Seeing knockouts like that with guys that's under the age of 30, I'm just like,
yeah, man, that's right.
He's gonna be concerned about gatekeeper.
Like, wow, I didn't even like you reminded me like he's not even 30 years old yet.
No, he's remember he was probed. When he came on the scene, they were hyping him up to be the next Trinidad. At one time.
Yeah, man,
it's crazy because Wama Lopez, remember.
Him too. You remember a time when they were saying Wama Lopez was going to be better than Cotto?
Oh God, yeah. I knew the way. Well, first of all, he fought way too careless.
Whoa, yeah.
For my liking, Even before he lost, I was like, I don't know about this kid, being the next whatever. But he was another one of these kids that he had like this kind of like a cocky swag, and people wanted him to succeed, because of his swag and his mannerism. But it's a lot to this thing, man. That's why you gotta give the guys that's great their glory, because it's hard, man.
Yeah, it is, man. Absolutely, man.
It's hard, yeah.
Before we get to to wrap up the show with Canelo and Callum, man, I want to just give you the floor with the main event of that card. As it concerns, we just finished talking about Chris Colbert, but Shakur Stevenson, okay, Who should have been a gold medalist, the silver medalist in the Olympics, has, our thing. I don't know if you or ROD said it. Like, he is starting to look like a man. Like, he's building it.
I sent you the picture. His body's filling in.
His body's filling in. He's starting to get into his adult body.
He looks like he's like 12. I feel so old.
It's right.
It makes us. I'm like,
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Always look this young, or we just older now. You know what I mean? Like, he looks like he's like a little. My wife was like, "How old is he?" Like, he looks like a teenager. I said, "No, he's 23."
Yeah, man. Yo, so we saw him. Yet again, he's the first fighter, technically, that fought in in the midst of COVID. COVID struck and everything. He was the first fight that Top Rank put out. Yeah. So this is his second fight this year, and he went up against.
He said he wanted to stay busy.
Yeah. He faced Toka Khan Clary, who, tricky guy, but I gotta say, man, I'll give the floor to you, man. We always look for, and we're already, man. I mean, as far as us being, degenerates, as you say, of the sport, I forgot what generation we're already at this point, as far as how many generations we've seen where we see the young guys and we see them develop. I mean, I can say I saw Floyd's first fight. I could say I saw Cotto's first fight. I saw early De La Hoya. I saw early Trinidad and early Shane at 135.
Yeah.
But, and I'll pass it to you, but Shakur Stevenson, at least for me, man, he is one of the best young fighters in boxing today, bar none. So listen, give me your thoughts on his performance.
Well, to your point, man, him filling out his body, is going to kind of allude to a point I'm gonna get ready to make. In boxing, there's two things that boxing fans, if you're a boxing fan, you want to see fighters do: commit to the jab and commit to the body. Dudes, it's the equivalent in basketball to the mid-range jump shot. Like, it's just you don't see fighters do it no more. Right. Because committing to the body means you gotta kind of stay in range so you can kind of put yourself in harm's way. So a lot of fighters are apprehensive about committing to the body. The jab is just something fighters just don't know how to throw no more. They throw their hand out, they throw their hands out there as if they're putting a jab together, but it's not exactly a jab to keep people at bay or to, like what Spence has, that hook and sinker, that string that he pull you in with. Shakur jab is a little different. It's a power. It's really like a power jab that he jabbed me, and he has an up jab too. But he everything he does, he works behind the jab, and he punctuate all his punch combinations to the body. Yeah. He punctuate every punch a combination to the body. This kid he fought was a tough kid, and I don't know if it was Tim probably was Andre Ward that said, it's easy for you to say at home why this kid is not coming forward, but when you're being peppered and tattooed, and Andre Ward would know, it may look like he's hurting this guy, but when you constantly having stuff smacked in your head, your body, you're going to slow down too. Nobody's running into a wall, so to speak. So, the guy, was second guessing every time, he thought about coming forward because he was going to punish you. See, this is what good, accurate, astute fighters do. They're going to make you pay every time you come forward. Anytime you try to cut the ring off on them, like, Floyd was great at that. Obviously, Andre Ward, Bernard, list goes on. Guys that knew how to put punches out at the right time, punch placement, as they call it. But the little tricky, the little subtle, you and I was texting
the whole time, right?
It was like we was like two Jedis, right? You was like Obi-Wan, and I guess I was.
Don't say Kylo Ren.
Yeah, you know what I mean? No, not him. The real OGs. So you was like Yoda, and we looking at. It was almost like we was looking at Luke. We were just like,
yeah.
Look at the little subtle things he's doing, like, punching off the break, you know, putting his head in certain positions, you know, spinning and turning, you know, the kid Toka. You know, he just does these little subtle things, you know, knowing how to, you know, roll his shoulders going backwards and then throwing that right cross, you know.
That was at one in particular time where he was backed up against the ropes, and he just on the back foot was able to throw a hook and like this 2-3 punch combination. He got right out. Like, it was just like, that's veteran stuff.
Which is not easy.
That's stuff that takes like time to implement into your game, man. But you know, we make the point, man. You know, you're training with Terrence Crawford. You have Andre Ward as your mentor, your manager. Some of that is going to seep into your game, man, because you got to believe that Ward has sat down with him, and I'm sure he's trained. He's been there watching him train, and you know, like they always say, man, iron sharpens iron. And
Earl Spence with Laura and the Charlo twins,
right? Exactly. So
you don't find that a coincidence? One of the two better young look. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Seriously.
Yep. I think with Shakur, man, he's somebody that it's just the things that he was doing in the body work. And the fact that he doesn't waste punches. Like every punch he threw was by design, and it wasn't a fact of him like trying to like even like again like to the point where you're saying with Chris Colbert, like he wants to show his arsenal and what he has, and he did stop this dude. It's Shakur Stevenson put on a clinic, man. But if you know, for a lot of the pundits out there, okay, or not to say the pundits, but a lot of the people that, you know, because you read on the forums like, oh, like, you know, he has no power and he has this. It's like, you guys really have to like take a back seat and look at what this kid is doing. Okay, because when you go back to some of these guys that we had mentioned, whether it's Floyd, whether it's, you know, you mentioned IBHOF and some of these guys, man, I mean, he's doing stuff at a very early age that I'm seeing later on in his career that is going to play dividends when he gets in there with, whether you talking about Ryan Garcia or Haney or any of these guys. He's just, to me, yo, and you mentioned it too, like when you're on the post you put on the gram, man. Like, I think both of those kids might quite possibly be the most polished young fighters in the game right now.
It's great, and no disrespect to like Spence and Crawford, but I saw Shakur Stevenson do things I don't see them two, even though they're better fighters.
Yeah, I mean, they're
But you understand what I'm
yeah.
The Ward thing is interesting to me because Ward has so much savage, and he was so savvy and smooth and subtle with his trickery.
Right.
And a lot of that he learned from Bernard, like, because Bernard did a lot of that. Like, Bernard was the master at hiding things, right?
Yeah.
So Shakur, like, you know, because, you know, leaving your lead mid open is technically illegal. In fact, when I was watching the Colbert fight, the kid was complaining that Colbert was blinded. The ref didn't look. I didn't see it. Then I'm not saying nothing about it, you know. But when you're crafty, you know how to do these type of things. You're able to get away. Right. So Shakur, every time, you know, he sized up and measured every time he threw a lead right hand. You know what I'm saying? So it's little stuff like that like I don't even see like Crawford and them. Not that Crawford can't do it, but I'm just saying that this dude is 23 and he's doing stuff
like that.
We seeing like 28, 30, 31, 32, 34, 35-year-old guys do. Like, and he's 23. Like, but I heard something that I don't know if I knew this before, or maybe I forgot. He's trained by his grandfather. Now, I want people to understand something, why that's important to me anyway, and I'm sure you'll agree. Because, you know, like you and I, you know, we got into boxing from older people.
Right.
And having that type of wisdom, and you brought up Andre Ward and all that. So it sounds like he's surrounded, and I don't know his grandfather, but I have to assume this somebody kind of got to know what he's doing, you know. But so can you imagine like the stuff he's been exposed to? It's not that other fighters haven't been exposed to stuff, but when you're a sponge, because I think he's a sponge and he just picks up stuff. So somebody's exposing him to something, because you 23-year-olds don't know stuff like what he's doing.
No, I mean, listen, man, I equated, you see the speakers and everything back here, man. Like when you get around other musicians and you get around other producers and artists and stuff like you that are good, like naturally you're gonna absorb all that, man. And like it takes you from here to here. So with him, like to the point, like you're training with Bud. You got Ward on your team, and then to your point, he's got his grandfather that's very likely instilled a lot in him. He is probably a lot more mature in the ring than his age gives off. So it's just now, they're talking about, he wants to fight the the winner of the Warrington Carl Frampton fight, which I think is for a world title. And then the Burchell fight, the Burchell and Valdez are fighting in February. I think those fights probably do end up happening next year, man. And listen, those fights could potentially be this, Shakur's coming out party. As far as
trajectory fights, those are good trajectory. See, the thing about it, because they're so young that they still have time. Like this isn't like a Crawford and Spence thing,
right?
So
yeah.
They're only 23, so you figure these fights won't materialize, if they do materialize, until probably another 2 to 3 years.
Right.
Yeah, like because you got fans like, oh, they fight Tank, like. You gotta put yourself in forward shoes. Like, I mean, this is prized possession. Same thing with Oscar with Ryan Garcia. He's not just
right.
Especially Oscar now that Canelo, he really because what I tell you, like the focus now and the direction is Ryan at this point. Since
on his plate, right? On his plate for sure. But the funny part with that is like he trains with Canelo, right? Garcia.
It's the most, and it's the whole thing is crazy. But anyway, moving on. Perfect segue.
Yeah, man. So this Saturday, man, we have like I said, the last big again. Canelo Alvarez is the modern cash cow, in boxing, as far as, you fight him, you're going to get paid. And
apparently Bruce Willis in Die Hard 9. European opponent. I mean,
Yippee-ki-yay.
I mean, like, I don't want to do this, Roberto, but this is what the whole DAZN. This all goes back to the whole DAZN fiasco.
No. Well, I mean, no. I was just saying, like, it's funny because Callum Smith. I mean, look, this is what I'll say. Okay, like, Canelo is a big favorite in this fight, and
of course, I guess a 6'3" guy, mind you. He's 5'5".
Yo, for y'all that haven't seen this yet, go on Instagram and just look at them sizing each other up. It's funny. It's funny.
It looks like a circus.
It does.
I mean, I'm just calling for what it is. It looks like a circus.
Yeah. Canelo. The only reason I'm not dogging this fight with Callum Smith is because.
Yeah.
I mean, but again, like I get your point though.
This is funny. That's all. This is more of a joke towards DAZN than Canelo.
Yeah, right. This is for legitimate for Callum Smith's legitimate WBA title, and like, look, man, we've seen the WBA and the WBC create these belts, particularly the WBC in recent, but to no surprise, the WBC steps in like last minute and says, hey, we got this vacant title over here. You want to fight for it? And so the fights for the WBC, the WBA, and the Ring Lineal Super Middleweight Championship of the world. Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So, well, because I didn't know this. Callum Smith's the Ring Lineal Super Middleweight Champion. Like I found that out like a few.
That division has become like those zones on The Walking Dead, like Hilltop and Alexander. That division, like, what the hell happened up there? Like, where did everybody go? Like,
the crazy part is, man, I mentioned to you guys, like, Canelo in a win is going to have, I mean, 3/4.
I hate this part of boxing.
If whatever you think of Billy Joe Saunders and being the WBO champion, whatever, but he wins this fight, and like and let's say he goes to fight Caleb Plant, he's like the unified, like full unified champion. It's crazy.
and everybody's calling him out because it's the legacy piece. It's all about just I want the notoriety guy, like versus the guy that it's a 50, because we throw the term around 50-50 fights a lot in boxing.
Yeah.
We're just at a point where guys really, they don't really care about that. It's more so about like I want to secure a heavy bag with the least amount of work. And they listen to Mayweather talk. Mayweather's an accomplished Hall of Fame fighter that's having fun at 43 years old. You know what I mean? Like, you guys didn't accomplish nothing yet.
Yeah,
so I don't know. We get into that whole subject again.
Yeah. I mean, as far as the fight itself, here's the thing, man. At one point I thought Callum Smith would be a problem for Canelo, and then I saw him, and again, I'm not trying to play the triangle theory here, but he fought this dude John Ryder, right? And John Ryder, give or take, is not that much bigger than Canelo, and you could argue he won that fight. You know what I'm saying? Here's what I see. Okay, granted, he's tall, right? Callum's, I mean, literally, Canelo's here.
6'3". He's 6'3".
He's like right here. But guess what's in Canelo's proximity? His body is right there for him to just land left hooks all day long, man. So honestly, unless Callum Smith figures out a way to fight tall, because he tends not to. I mean, he's 6'3", but fights like at like 6'1", 6 feet.
I was going to say. Yeah.
So I feel, again, like with Canelo, he's another dude, slow starter. But as this fight progresses, you're going to see Callum Smith just feel shots he's never felt before. And I don't know at what round is going to happen, but I think he's going to stop. He's going to stop Callum Smith with a body shot.
Yep.
And that'll be it. And he won't get up.
I made the joke about the Die Hard bad guys because, in Die Hard, the movie, remember he kills one of the brothers.
Yeah.
In the
40th
floor. So the other brother gets all emotional. And Hines is like, relax.
Came back.
Yeah, right. It's all about the detonators. Don't worry about it. Well, here comes Caleb. Listen, the zone put themselves in the box, right? And you can go back and check the tape. Me and Roberto, we said this 4 years when
they announced the deal, right?
When they announced, and the first question I remember asking Roberto was, well, who is he going to fight on the zone other than European super middleweights and middleweights that nobody never heard of?
Right.
Well, here we are. And listen, I'm not knocking Canelo. Please don't get this misconstrued, because who wouldn't go somewhere if somebody just gave them a blank check?
I know.
To pretty much fight some 4 glorified sparring sessions, basically. Triple G fight never materialized. The third fight with that one. When we first did it, we said, well, maybe. And I remember distinctly having this conversation. We got the screenshots to prove it.
Yeah.
And I said, well, damn. I guess the zone is probably looking at it like, well, worst case scenario, we'll cash out with a Charlo fight or whatever. And none of it materialized. And I was just like, because it's nobody, like, who's on that network? Like, how are these fights? I know what Al Heyman's doing. He has his networks in place.
Right.
They're not worrying about the zone or whatever they are at the time. I didn't know. Like, come on, man. Like, it's just for me as a boxing person. And listen, again, it's not no knock to Canelo. The guy, fought and won some big fights.
Yeah.
But you still want to see, if he's going to hang around and stay around. I want to see him fight a Kovalev, even though he fought Kovalev. But the way Ward did it, where Ward moved up to light heavyweight and fought a live Kovalev.
Right. That's
what you want to see. Like, you want to stay around, then give me something. So we're hoping, before we close out in 2021, I'll let you capitalize, cap off on this, is where we are with Canelo in 2021 with the PBC middleweight guys.
Listen, man, I mean, he's made mention that he wants to unify 168. And who's the other champion over there at 168? It's Caleb Plant. And listen, they were trying to they were trying to materialize that fight. And listen, I don't think it was in December. It was supposed to be, But look, when you're dealing with Al Heyman and you're dealing with Fox and like it's not something you're gonna do at the 11th hour, you know.
No.
And that's why in hindsight we were, you know, I'm not shocked it didn't happen right away. It's not Caleb ducking, it's not Canelo ducking. At this level, it's business. Okay, like this isn't like because truth be told, Caleb Plant, David Benavidez, Jamal, all those dudes make career money against Canelo. So it's nothing about
and it's a big. Those are all risky fights for Canelo. So when he, you know how that goes. Like if I'm putting my net worth and everything else on the line, I got to be compensated accordingly. So, you know,
I feel in 2021, man, he's going to fight in some fashion. He's going to fight some of those guys.
So is the deal with the DAZN, is that it after this fight?
This doesn't even count as his contract is null and void because the contract he had with the contract he had with DAZN was predicated on Golden Boy's contract.
Oh, that's the part. See, that's the part I was confused.
Yeah. So once that contract ended, Canelo had the ability to go negotiate with himself. That's why the irony was that he is fighting on his own without Oscar.
So he's his own entity right now.
Right. But the funny part was, and I think I opened the show with this, is that the fight now, and you remember when they remember the commercial that they did when they had Canelo in there and they said Michael Buffer's like, no pay-per-view or whatever. Now the 11th hour, and we were talking about it on the chat, they you know, and again, this is to squeeze back in money. We get it. We know the business.
They're not getting no subscriptions like they thought they were. Especially here in America.
Particularly in the United States, that like if you don't got the NFL and the NBA in your pocket, nah. So they're putting this fight now. They're working and it's funny because they were on this tirade about like pay-per-views dead and all this stuff. Well, in reality, man, it's not the case. And you know how you know that's not the case? Because we had a fight a few weeks ago with Mike and Roy that is the biggest selling pay-per-view of 2020. So go figure as far as that's concerned. But they put out this this notice saying that you can purchase the fight on conventional pay-per-view, but the caveat is that if you do purchase it at $70, it's going to come with a 4-month subscription to DAZN. So for y'all that didn't have DAZN and you want to dish out $70 to watch this fight this Saturday, you know, you can get 4 months for DAZN, but like, just so you know, Canelo's not fighting on there anymore. So, but they will be airing the Ryan Garcia Luke Campbell fight, which is on January 2nd. That fight I'm looking forward to. But beyond that, I just don't know how DAZN is going to sustain this business. Again, in the United States, I can't say internationally, because internationally they have the NBA and they have the contracts with the NFL and things. But in the United States, if you ain't Fox, if you ain't CBS, you ain't, or ESPN, you ain't getting you ain't getting those contracts, at least yet.
No, I mean, I get, like it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. After the Die Hard franchise concludes. I gotta go watch Die Hard tonight, man.
Yippee-ki-yay, man. Yo, shout out to Bruce Willis, though, man. That first Die Hard was the joint.
Sick.
So, no, go ahead.
No, I'm good. I'm just before we close out, we talked about before we jumped on air is I'm really feeling the direction of the sport. Sometimes being a boxing fan, you get a little nervous, you're unsure, because we did go through a period I was a little worried. I'm like, I'm not really feeling the farm like that. I didn't feel like we had like some real secure, tight young talent, but this weekend just kind of made me smile a little bit as a boxing fan, seeing guys like Shakur Stevenson, a Colbert, even a guy like Ryan Garcia, another character, you know, whatever your opinion may be. It's these guys, like, it's giving me hope that we're going to have some compelling, entertaining matchups.
Yeah.
I just hope that they materialize, because we live in this new age business, which is cool being a business person. But at the same time, you don't want that to dilute the sport with everybody trying to play the role of a business person.
You hit the nail on the head with that.
Yeah, that's my only fear if I got one.
No doubt, man. So that's pretty much our show, man. I mean, we'll do a wrap up show, you know, in the next week or so. But
maybe end of year thing we'll do like we normally do. You know, our end of year show. Yep.
Yeah. So this is really this is the last like notable weekend of boxing in 2020, man. Hopefully in 2021 we see. I mean, really, particularly one fight I hope we get. You know what fight it is. I'm not even going to mention it anymore. But hopefully things get situated. We get that fight, man. But that's pretty much it. Appreciate all the subscriptions, all the likes, the follows. Follow us.
Appreciate y'all.
At GYGB Boxing. Yeah. GYGB Boxing on Instagram. Spotify. This show will be on Spotify. Just search GYGB War Report Show on Spotify. Facebook.com/GYG Boxing. We appreciate it, man. You know, we're here for y'all. You know, we cover the sport, but we're the hardcore degenerate fanatics of the sport, just like y'all, man. So we appreciate it. Like I said, Facebook.com/GYG Boxing, at GYGB Boxing on Instagram. And that is our show for tonight, man. So we'll be back up. We'll cover the, you know, what happens this weekend if any craziness pops off. But that's pretty much it. Enjoy your evening. Peace.